Thank you so much for joining our next segment of meditation, mindfulness, and making life meaningful. I know we haven't met for a few weeks. This is the second and fourth Mondays of the month, so we had a little bit of a gap. And slowly we've got a few people still popping in. We have some people in the Gompa, which is great. And thank you for those of you joining us online. We're going to start with some meditation, some light meditation. But while we get everybody here, I'm going to ask you guys a few questions from the exercises. Let me know, did everybody get the exercises? Okay, great. If you didn't, I'll put you in touch with Patty, who's here. Thank you so much. So some things were sent out. And I'm just going to ask also the folks in the room, just if you can take seats and just, we'll all be here together. Be wonderful. So I just want to ask you a couple questions to see how this past few weeks went. Reflecting on the preciousness of life, if you remember. We all have problems. Did you notice where if you could bring your mind back at some point to lifting the mind up, instead of getting stuck in some negative looping? How did that work for you? What about remember the inner bully we were talking about? The inner bully, anybody noticing that? And again, I know we forget, the exercise, whatever, but I was asking what's happening when you notice that negative inner dialogue? Who's around you, possibly? Are there other triggers? And just observing from a gentle stance, just observing from a gentle stance. So could you peel back the onion a little bit to understand what's really going on? What's really going on? To have a little, maybe it's some time with whatever's going on at the moment and then back on your cushion. So that was another little thing. And I wanted to just add again from His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, the terms mental immunity. Mental immunity, what does that mean for you? How can I wake my mind up and have my mind actually just grounded and balanced so that I'm able to deal? There's a lot of challenges right now, a lot of challenges. So, but I can face each one like, yes, that's a problem. This is a shame. Earthquake in Turkey, horrible, horrible. But how can I help? How can I help? Just stay this mental immunity. I don't need it to topple me completely. But then it's kind of like, for me, I was looking, you look for organizations to make a donation for one, and it was kind of neat because I made a donation to this organization that I like. And you do your research, you want to make sure it's not just going to big fat salaries, but it's actually reaching people. And then a friend of mine whose birthday is actually today, a dear friend, a longtime childhood friend, and he had a little fundraiser that he was raising money for, and it was the same organization. So it was funny how we were kind of in sync with, and I said, oh, I just donated. I wish I donated to your fundraiser, but I donated to them separately. So think about how your mental immunity is going. Just any comments from anybody? What's happening the last, anything in relation to these things that anybody cares to mention? Things going well, what happens when they weren't going well? Could you apply a technique? Anything anyone would care to say? And how's the meditation practice going? If you want to unmute, or you can put things in the chat.
I could answer that. I could say, are you there?
Joanne?
Yeah, I can only say that I had a bird that Gary and I've had for almost 35 years pass away the day after my birthday last week.
Oh,
And
well, happy birthday, but I'm so sorry.
And we went through a few days of him being really ill. And it's interesting to see your mind going into, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I can't live without that. You see your eye really like hitting a high note, and I'm realizing, wait a minute, this is not about me. This is the bird, and his journey. I will also say that he sat through several of your emptiness classes and heard the whole thing. He had gotten, the night before he died, he got the Heart Sutra. So, he had really all of the elements in place for a good transition, as far as I could tell.
Right.
So, but you could just see your eye, oh no, what am I going to do? Me. And it's like I said, so I was able to work that out in my head and stop. And there was much more peace about it when I was able to do that. It was more accepting, and instead of my own eye getting all caught up into what it was going to do, because the pet that I'd had for 35 years had passed away,
Yeah.
so
Yes.
anyway, that was my experience.
I mean, it's great to say that. And could everybody hear in the room? It's a long time to have a pet, 35 years. So a lot of attachment, obviously, a lot of being used to this being in your life. It's extraordinary, but the imprints that the bird sounds like he had, and again, it is great to think about maybe you could get out of the animal realm and to something
Mhm,
better
mhm.
based on those imprints,
Yeah, oh yeah.
maybe the next director of Land of Medicine Buddha.
He's been, and it's not he's been through many teachings, sitting with many different
Yes,
over the years. He's
right.
had lots and lots. So
That's great.
I just figure he's a holy being. He's on his way. He's probably going to be my teacher in the next lifetime. Or
There you go.
is the way
Wonderful.
I see it. Yeah.
Well, that's great. It's great to have, welcome. Yeah, thanks so much. Please come in. It's great to have, just to have, and to think about, again, here it is, taking the focus off myself, right? The answer to everything. I was just out to lunch with somebody that lives here today, and we were talking about that, how if you just figure out that if I just take the focus off myself for a moment, everything's okay. There's no stress, there's no problem, everything's great. So it's pretty simple, but we're not habituated yet. We're not habituated as much like that. Oh, the traffic backed up. Okay. Yes, it can be really bad, the traffic here. Okay. Okay, thank you. So we're going to do some meditation, orienting our minds in a good way. Please find a comfortable posture for yourself. The door's unlocked, right?
Yeah.
It should be unlocked, yeah. Yeah, please leave it unlocked so people, if anybody wants to come in there. Thank you. I think if you just put it to off, it'll eventually go off, but it's okay. We're not going to do that much meditation. It's not like a whole meditation session, so that's okay. Thank you. Not a problem. It's nice and warm in here anyway. There you go. There we go. Okay. So if you'd like, you could lightly close your eyes, find that extension for the spine. Chin is just slightly tucked. Just allow your respiration to deepen slightly as we let go those distractions from the day. Just allow your body to relax as much as you can. We're inhaling space. We're exhaling distraction. Let's think about our motivation, our purpose for being here right now. It'd be wonderful to work on opening our hearts, being more mindful, so that we can counter delusions as they arise in our mind, keeping us, in a sense, out of trouble, but also enhancing the positive qualities about ourselves more and more and more, that hopefully one day will move us to a place of deep experiential realization, enlightenment. But the real purpose of reaching that place is to be of infinite benefit to all living beings, huge benefit to all living beings. So if you like that motivation, feel free to include it in your own. Just take a moment right now, directing the mind in that most positive way. So as Valentine's Day is tomorrow, let's do a meditation on love, loving kindness. Quite simple. So I'd like you to visualize as best as you can in the space across from you, the person you might say you love the most. Just choose one person you actually know. Imagine they're seated across from you, facing you. And just notice the feelings that arise in your body and mind right now as you look across at this person you love the most. Just observe. If you feel that spaciousness in your heart center in relation to this person, imagine as if there is a jewel at your heart center, a gleaming jewel, multifaceted, streaming, beautiful light rays of loving kindness towards this person. Imagine it emanating from your heart, beautiful light rays of whatever color represents that to you, multicolored. And imagine it cascading over to that person in front of you that you love so much, melting into their heart and enveloping them Just this huge wish that we want them to be happy. And just keep this going right now as best as you can. Now let's just leaving that person there, just moving them off to one side. Imagine now seated beside your favorite person you love the most. Imagine a replica of yourself seated across from you. Continue to send this loving energy to yourself. Just wishing this huge happiness of loving kindness, the essence of loving kindness is really wishing that person to be happy. So imagine those light rays enveloping the front visualization of yourself, melting into the heart there. And slowly imagine those light rays coming back into the center of your heart, you seated here in the room or in your space. Just acknowledge the two beings across from you, the replica of yourself and the person you love the most, if they're different. And just slowly let them dissolve back into the space from where they came. Slowly, please relax. When you're ready, please open your eyes. I just want to ask you right now. From the meditation, how did it go? Easy? Same between the person you love the most and doing the meditation with yourself? Same experience? Anybody care to say? Is it the same or different? Bob?
Easier with the other person, not as much with myself.
So Bob's saying, Bob's here in the room, it's easier to do it with the person you love the most. Anybody have that experience? Anybody have trouble sending love to themselves? Isn't that interesting? Interesting, isn't it? Until you do it, you don't realize there's often a block for people. It's often a block for people. So it's something to just be.
Or maybe an awkwardness, because it's not something typically do back to myself.
Yes, yeah, Bob's saying an awkwardness because you're not used to kind of sending these to yourself normally. So in a sense, what happens is it's not about egomaniacal love, like I'm the greatest. It's a balanced sense of I'm worthy. I'm okay to want myself to be happy, but in a balanced way. So I find some people are really blocked from doing it. Some people it's very, very challenging. So I think the beginning, as we're developing the good heart, we're going to start talking about methods to develop bodhicitta, this enlightened attitude about love and attachment we've been talking about in this course. So it starts with having some balanced love for yourself, feeling good that you're worth something. You're okay, actually. You're really okay. Do we make mistakes? Of course. We're human beings. That's the nature of being a human. But just having that level where I can make a mistake. And one example I give, there's a really nice book from Sharon Salzberg. Some of you may have heard of this book. It's an older book called Loving Kindness. So there's our title, Loving Kindness, right? So our meditation, Loving Kindness. And so she has an example in there that I really liked when I was reading it some years ago. Is she's on the retreat, leading a retreat at Spirit Rock. This is a big Vipassana center up north in California. She's leading this retreat. She gets an emergency call that a friend has died. So she's packing quickly to go to the funeral. She's leaving the retreat early. And she's packing. And she knocks over a glass in the room and it shatters and there's glass over the floor and water. And so she immediately has this reaction, you're so stupid. Like, how many times have we done that? Oh God, what an idiot you are, right? Like, that's quick. That's easy. So but because she was leading a loving kindness retreat, right? So she says like, oh, you're so stupid. And I love you came out automatically right after. So could we have that little sense of that cushion, the little, like you dropped the glass, but it's okay because I'm a human being. We make so many mistakes. So just that gentleness to kind of acknowledge, like, I made a mistake. Can I learn from it? Or can I just remove myself for a moment because I need a little tenderness, right? And then you move on and realizing I'm okay. Yeah, I mean, if you make one mistake over and over and over and over again, then I'd kind of be looking at. Sometimes we do need to kind of tighten the screws to say, all right, what's it going to take now? Like, this is enough of this. That's okay, but that's part of the self-love, in a balanced way, self-love, self-care, in a balanced way. It's not just me disregarding everyone else. It's not that kind of love, not pure unconditional love, but it's really that care for myself with the bigger motivation so I can take care of as many beings as possible, so I can help as many beings as possible, like that. Hopefully anyway, I've still got you guys here, I think. We might have lost our screen there, but I think, can you guys still hear me? Yeah, great. Okay. So what I want to go on with, thank you so much, is one thing that Patty is going to share with you this week when the exercises will go out a little bit later because our next class is in 2 weeks. What she's going to share, it's a long document, so don't be overwhelmed, okay? Especially if you do sign up for the course, that's how we then have a list of everybody. And those are the people that will get the documents and get the exercises. things like that. So also, if you guys want to have a way to sign up and we can get you the documents. Patty's going to share this commentary that I edited and put together. It was really created by Venerable Sarah Thresher, who used to be the program coordinator here many years ago. She's a nun, she's a friend of mine. She lives in Nepal now. And we had teachings here on this throne with a great Lama named Reba Rinpoche on bodhicitta. And so then she decided to make a document that basically is like the Lam Rim books, and it just outlines the whole structure of what are all the different steps. And there's 2 methods I'm going to talk about. And then what are the meditations to have deeper points of, so some of it is repetitious. So you're going to see things again that come up in the meditations. Again, it's a very long document. So you take pieces of it, take pieces. So in the exercises, I'll say, just focus on up to page 19, or something, just like look at that part right now. And you just look at whatever you can. But the main thing is you're going to have this guide, very easy reference to use. You can file it in your computer, that the whole method of how you develop bodhicitta step by step, 2 different methods I'm going to explain in a moment. And it's really great. So I wanted to share that with you. And we're going to go through little aspects and parts of that to make this richer. But then you can always research, access it again. You refer to it and you go, what was that step? Oh, there it is. And slowly you get more and more familiar with this part of the philosophy. It's part of the higher scope of the Lam Rim. So they're a little bit more advanced teachings in a way, but you get more and more and more familiar. And this is the source of your happiness. So it's really a very systematic, step-by-step progressive process that seriously works. It really does work. So, but again, it takes, some of it's unfamiliar to us. When we learn the terminology, we hear the different steps, and you need to take some time, go back to your cushion, go back to your meditation space, and just take one little point at a time. One little point at a time. We're going to do some of those meditations through the weeks as well, like that. So how's your inner bully going? Still bullying you? Something to keep working on, okay? And what I want to begin to talk about, and we're also going to talk about different passages to developing more compassion. And I want to talk tonight about 3 main terms. One is equanimity, but I'm going to start with sympathy and empathy. Sympathy and empathy are pretty common words we've heard a lot. Empathy is very related to compassion. Sympathy is slightly different, okay? But we hear a lot about sympathy, oh, I had a lot of sympathy for that person. And I just want to look at those 2 terms. Sympathy is a little bit more related to pity. Okay, pity is a little bit more of a negative, actually. Much more of a negative, even though if we haven't really thought about it, okay? Both of the nouns, sympathy and empathy, they share a common root from the Greek, pathos, okay, meaning feelings, emotion, passion, like that, okay? So pathos itself refers to kind of, it could be a pity or a compassion, passion in a work of art, literature, being with someone, things like that. So they're related to the same kind of term. But what I would say, and I want you to check up on this before our next class, that you have 2 weeks. I want you to just check up a little bit. Sympathy, for me, is a little bit more about disconnection. It's a little bit more about disconnection. Sympathy and pity, it's a little bit more about disconnection, okay? And I would say it drives disconnection. Empathy fuels connection, comes a little bit more around that, okay? And what happens with sympathy, it's an unfortunate outcome of the disconnection, okay? Because I think sympathy often comes from a good place. You mean well, okay? But as a result, it creates a little bit like, you're suffering, and I'm really glad I'm not there. I feel for you, but I'm not going to get my feet dirty in that trench with you. Really, and so you're a little bit standing above the person of, I am so sorry for you, a little bit looking down, disconnected. I don't want to feel what you're feeling. It's too uncomfortable for me to get in there with you. I'm sorry for you. So the pity adds this layer onto the person of they're alone, they're alone, they're alone. Okay. Empathy is very much like, I haven't had that experience that you're having, but I'm going to actually get down in the trench with you, and I'm just going to be here with you in your discomfort. I'm okay with that. I don't need to have the exact experience. It's certainly helpful if somebody says your mother died, their mother died, and you've had your mother die. Certainly you experience that, but there's still people that will pity the person from that view. So it's not about necessarily that I've shared the thing with you, so I'm empathetic. It's more like, I'm going to hang here with you in your discomfort. It can be really uncomfortable. I will be here with you. Pity's a little bit like, and sympathy, like when you hear somebody died and you say, let me know if there's anything you need. So I don't really have to get my hands dirty, and I'm offering because I feel bad for you, but I'm not going to kind of take activity to kind of walk into your uncomfortable space. So empathy a little bit more is, I don't know if you really need this. You send somebody a text. I'm just going to drop off a hot meal for you and your family. I'm going to deliver the soup. You don't need to thank me. I'm going to leave it outside the front door. You know they're home. I'm just going to leave it there. And, let me know. I can grab some groceries for you, or I'm just going to leave a little bag of groceries out there. And if you need anything else, like, I will check in with you next week. So you're making a little bit more active, right? Because a lot of people they get sick, they get cancer, they're suffering, somebody died, right? People like that often don't reach out. They're not going to call. People say, call me if you need anything. I'd never call in those situations with people, but then there's people that come. Now, you don't want to be invasive, but it's a way you can just say, I just want you to know I'm here. If you need it, here's some things, here's what I can, and you just you call and you check in, and you even say, if you don't want me to call or text anymore, no problem for me. It's okay. You don't even need to respond. I just want you to know I'm here. And then sure enough, the person usually will be like, yes, can you bring me this? Would you mind just picking up some stuff and just drop it outside the door? Like that. And they know there's no obligation. So think about, in the next couple of weeks, any empathetic responses with people that you know. Are you reacting a little bit more out of fear, so the sympathy and pity gets activated? Do you notice that it keeps you a little bit separated from them? What is so scary going in there with empathy, getting into the trench with somebody's discomfort? Please explore that. Please explore that. Because when you really get in there, and you can go in a meditation, feel it, what's going on. Put yourself in front of the person and they tell you, I have cancer. The treatments are not working. This is the last thing they told me. They're giving up on all the treatments. I'm stopping the chemo. This is happening to a couple of people I know right now. Stopping the chemo. One person I know, they're actually on the East Coast right now. I'm not close with them, but they're part of an extended family for me. So I've been in touch with her for a while about the cancer and all this, and she has a huge support system. But I just sent her a thing saying, I know I'm really far away. I'm so sorry. The treatment, it sucks. I actually said, it really sucks. And if you need a separate ear from all of your community, you just want somebody to cry to or to rage to or to just talk to, I said, I'm here. I said, I know you've got a big support network, and just like that. And I didn't expect her to respond. And she said, that's so sweet of you. Like, thank you so much. She may never contact me again, but that's okay. Just like know that she knows other people are thinking about her. I said, we're all thinking about you, praying for you. And so I can't fix it like that. I can't alleviate her fears. But again, it's can be a little challenging, but try to go in there to do some role plays with yourself. Maybe what would you say? Can you rehearse what you would say to somebody? Because often in the face of somebody's pain, we end up saying the wrong things, right? We get uncomfortable, so we blurt stuff out, silly stuff. Some people have said to me when they're in the hospital dying, or they're coming back from surgery, and they say, God, some people say such stupid things when they come in. And it's just out of the discomfort. It's just because we don't know what to say. Sometimes it's better to just be quiet. Be there with somebody. You show up, and then you can just sit there and be there. Maybe you bring a little gift or something, and then they start talking. Sometimes they just, or sometimes they want things to be more normalized. They want you to just, in a sense, be talking about ordinary things in your life sometimes, because everybody comes in with the pity eyes looking at them, right? And they just want you to kind of be like it was before they told you they had cancer. So you can experiment a little bit with that. But if we can rehearse a little bit on our cushion, where I get used to what would I say? What would I say? Or I hung up the phone with somebody and thought I said something really stupid. How would I do it again? What would be different that I can do? And then I can just rehearse it in my meditation space and rehearse it. And then you try to take yourself in there when you can, you know. I mean, it could be today we were driving, me and another person living here, we were driving. I was in the driver's seat driving. And then sure enough, you know, in Santa Cruz, there's a guy with his sign on the side and we're at a red light. And I forget what he said, something about needing money, but he wanted a job actually. He wanted a job. And it wasn't about money, he wanted a job, but I quickly, and what happened is because this person was next to me, my bag with money was out of my reach in the front seat. So we're there. Unfortunately, the light was really long. So I looked back and I reached back and I said, oh, I can't grab my bag. And then I went, well, the light's going to turn. So, you know, and then it wasn't turning. And then I unbuckled my seatbelt and really reached for the bag because I just wanted to try to give him, you know, a little bit of money. And then my friend's like, and right away said, oh, don't worry about it. I've got money. Like, so suddenly you're engaged in this nice, charitable, big-hearted, you know, we were in our conversation, but it was like, well, here's this person standing there, you know, like, what's it like to be standing there? And then I rolled down the window, unfortunately. And then my friend even said, well, it's good the light's long, but you know, the red light. So there's advantages of ways of buoyancy. Like people get pissed off at long red lights, right? But we had this opportunity to do something positive there because the light was so long. So instead of that, and so came over and then I connection with the person, you know, it's not like there's some dirty, scary person. It's a person just like me. And then we met eye contact and both of us said hello. And he said hello and he said, thank you so much. And I said, good luck to you. And, you know, and just connection. It's just more connection. We're all doing this together. We need to help each other. So see what you can do. This is the strides of, you know, mindfulness meditation, making life meaningful, more focused on love and attachment. How can I get in there with the big open heart? You know, tomorrow's a big celebration of that. Now, I don't know if that's how everybody celebrates Valentine's Day. It's usually about buying chocolates and flowers and taking somebody you love out to dinner. That's great. But what if we could really move something bigger out? You know, really this wish for others to be happy. Who in your life have you been kind of judging, criticizing, having conditions on things you want them to do, moving some agenda of yours out to these people? So maybe you can stretch that a little bit more. Let some of those of your agenda go. Think about them. What's best for them? You know, just like Joanne in the beginning said about her bird, then she thought, this is about the bird. This isn't about her and Gary losing their pet companion of 35 years, which is very, very hard. Very, very hard. I really do empathize with you on that one. But again, then she realized it's about the bird and what kind of, sounds like he had a great death, all these teachings, all these imprints. So a little bit thinking about, well, where's the bird going? What's the bird's experience going to be? You know, powerful to turn that mind to thinking of others. Again, take that 98% of the time you're thinking about yourself. Can I just divert a little bit of it to thinking about others as much as somebody else's experience? So rather than me at the red light waiting, you know, it's somebody else's experience. When you go into a restaurant, like, do you see the people that are seating you, the people that are waiting on you, the people that are pouring the coffee, to really be kind to them? What's it like to work in these restaurants? You know, what's it like to get horrible? My niece is a server on the East Coast in Philadelphia, and like she tells me these stories, the way people treat her. It's unbelievable. You know, I just can't believe that, let alone stiffing her with no tip and no this and whatever. But think about that extension of your heart for different beings. You know, if you're taking the bus driver, you're going into a grocery store, the cashiers, the people that are on their feet all day, people restocking, people, you know, people doing, and other people doing really, really boring jobs all the time. What's that like? What's that like? What would it be like if you're doing that job? Maybe that's a job you're doing now, but so just that extension, There's many people I know doing things like that that are like they're like enlightened beings, some of them. So you never know who's there that you can learn from, just turning that thing like that. So a little bit sympathy, empathy. And some things I want to add. I'm a big fan of, some of you have read Brené Brown. She's a sociologist from Texas. Brené Brown, I really like some of her things. These are some additional things she adds related to empathy and sympathy is, she calls it perspective taking. Perspective taking, okay? This is standard for one of our methods we will talk about in future classes. Equalizing, exchanging self with others is one method to develop bodhicitta. So she says, put yourself in someone else's shoes. That's the old adage in the States. Put yourself in someone else's shoes. We're going to do a meditation, again, looking out as from the other person's eyes back at you. What's that like? We're so concerned with ourselves. My experience, what's this like? Well, what's it like if you're them? What's it like if you're them? What's it like to look out of their eyes, and how do you see the world? Like that. So again, perspective, a different perspective, right? And if I can just get out of the solidity of my own perspective, it can be so helpful for you. So please, I'd like you to exercise with that. Okay, so I'll send some of these exercises out, but feel free to take notes about perspective taking. How does that go the next 2 weeks? How's that working? You can use it for the rest of this course as well. Here's another one that I find really helpful, okay? Can I stay out of judgment, okay? Staying out of judgment and really actively listening to somebody. How many times am I, as soon as they open their mouth, it's like criticism, judgment. Oh, I know, but I have something I need to add. I need to tell them my perspective. I need to tell them my story. My story is more important, actually. I can top that. I have something better than that. How many times have you done, what about if can I just be passive for a moment, close this and listen? But really listen to somebody, really listen. And it was really sweet today, me and this very old friend from here, we went out for lunch, but just, I've known this person for many, many years, come to work here. So we kind of get engaged in some of the work stuff. And then I found myself like sitting back and that, I noticed these are things we've talked about before in relation to LMB. So I find myself, then I get kind of engaged with what I need to tell them how it's going to go. And then I went, no, and it was really nice, this soft kind of back, what's he saying, And then somehow this love came out of like how I feel for him. I was just like, he's so precious, how dedicated. And, I was like, so sweet, that kind of feeling of like really seeing him, really helped me see him rather than, well, let me tell him what's better than that. I have a solution, can tell him the solution later. We can discuss that in a meeting with other people. And so it's really nice feeling for yourself. And it gave me a space to love myself in the instance. Like, I'm okay too. Like, I'll say things that other people are going, oh, we're not going to do that. Like, so it kind of gave me a little space to not take myself so seriously, be gentle. It was very light. It was really light and really nice. So practice a little bit. Just see, can you stay out of judgment? When are you judging? Do you ever notice? Some people do it a lot, some not so much. Some do it a lot. So just play with that a little bit. You're not bad if you're judging. You're just becoming observant. That's all. It's okay. This is you getting to know your mind again. Here's another step. Recognizing emotion in another person, okay, that maybe you've experienced. You're recognizing emotion in another person. And this is for me a little bit like, sometimes I'll have a thing, I'll watch somebody doing something. There might be a judgment, there might be something, and then all of a sudden I'll have this little bell like, God, I do that. I've been there. Like, and watching, and sometimes it's positive things that they're experiencing, like some exuberance. If somebody's so excited about something, that's great. I've been there. I can celebrate that with them. And then sometimes the negative for somebody, they're going through a really hard time. Wow, that must feel like I've been there. I've done that. So just staying there with that creates this connection. This is where the empathy comes from. this kind of connection. I've experienced that before. Here's a fourth one. Communicating to the person. I recognize that emotion. I recognize that emotion. You know, I was thinking a little bit just early on when Teresa came in, and I've been thinking about you the last couple days, and I did send you, I think I tried an email, it bounced.
Oh.
Then I sent it to your LMB email. Don't know if it got through, but I think I then sent you a WhatsApp, and it was just basically, how are you doing? Because I knew, this other little health thing. And then I was thinking tonight, I because we were a little bit in a hurry setting up, so I didn't really finish the thought with you, because I wanted to kind of really say, well, how's it going? Because, and the most interesting was of all, when the donation came in from the dentist. Because I'm like, do you want to call her? Like, there's this person that, I mean, it was just bizarre. That was so bizarre. So I wanted to just say, how are you really feeling? Because I've been there, and I'm like, that, sometimes physical discomfort can be really difficult, very difficult at times like that. And it weighs on the mind a bit. So can I then communicate to the person, think I really know how you're feeling, so sorry. Wow, I recognize that. I've been there. So again, this connection, and I would say empathy becomes what I'll call a vulnerable choice. I'm acknowledging I've got these feelings too. I'm revealing something to you. I've been there. I've experienced that. So you get to know a little bit more about me, and this is where the connection comes, rather than like posturing myself. I can't show her that I'm weak. I don't want to tell her that I've ever, can't show anybody that. So we're going to stay disconnected. We're all in this together like that. And I would say that, and please check up on this. I've noticed this so much in my own experience of life and stuff, is rarely does a response make anything better, right? Okay. But what makes things better is connection. I see you, I know what you're going through, or at least I hear what you're going through. And that really sucks, and I'm here for you. If you want to talk about this, you want to do this. So that suddenly somebody just feels like, okay, at least somebody's listening. I'm all out here by myself and I can't get this sorted. But there are other people, even, my friend or the extended family member across the country right now. There's a network connecting me to her just from the texts back and forth that we've had over the past year. There's still, whether we ever have contact again or not, but there's definitely like a strand that's connecting us now that she knows like that. She said something to somebody else in the family about it. So it's like, she knows there's that connection. And I think that's nice for the whole planet, for all of us. So that's sympathy and empathy. And I want to talk about this word equanimity right now. Equanimity. We've heard this before. So when we talk about developing bodhicitta, I want to read a quote from Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Why is this important to help us with love and attachment? And it also helps us and we'll use mindfulness techniques. We're going to do Tonglen meditation later in this series. And some specific meditations on bodhicitta some of them are challenging, because again, this is a little bit higher level, but you're all fine where you are. This is from Lama Zopa Rinpoche, from his book, The Door to Satisfaction. One of Rinpoche's books, The Door to Satisfaction. And sometimes we have these titles of books like Wisdom Energy, right? And these books have been around for so many years in our tradition, you don't even think about what the title means anymore. Okay, so think about the door to satisfaction. Like, if I can just open that door and I walk into a room of satisfaction, contentment, because we often don't have that on the planet. And one of the sufferings of samsara is dissatisfaction. We're never really that happy. There's a level of uncertainty and unknown that siphons in, that makes us kind of like, we can never really fully appreciate, so I love this, the door to satisfaction. Rinpoche says, I'll read this quote that is at the beginning of this commentary that you're going to be sent, you're going to be emailed. The thought of bodhicitta is unbelievable. It makes everything other than working for sentient beings boring and unsatisfying. Okay? There's no real interest or enjoyment in life apart from this. Anything else is meaningless, empty, essenceless. Real happiness and satisfaction start when you begin to live your life for others. Okay? This is tricky for us because we're so habituated with what's in it for me. That's our culture. That's our culture. And what happens is we have a superficial level of happiness for most of us. I don't know all your own experiences, but the fact that we live near the center, we could come to the center, or we can get on Zoom, which means I've got electricity, I've got internet, I've got some device to watch it on, I have a vehicle to bring me here, I have a friend to bring me here. You know, we probably have food, clothing, and shelter. So we've got pretty good level going on that we've taken care of ourselves. Fantastic. Great. Okay. But then these little problems come popping up. And some of them are small and we deal with it and we move on. And some of us are pretty balanced, so we deal with it pretty well. Then bigger problems come. So how are you doing with the bigger problems? You know, and do you have any habitual problems that keep popping up and suddenly, and that's kind of the work I've been doing, is if the same theme keeps popping up after a while, you know, I'm going to go more deeply into my mind. Buddhism says, again, and this is a bit radical, everything comes from my mind. Everything comes from the mind. Fundamental teaching in this tradition. So if you want to blame other people and you feel like if I fix them, everything's going to be great for me, then you need to find another tradition. Because that's not going to be the source of your happiness in this tradition. Okay? Everything comes from the mind. So when I perpetually start making mistakes and again, then I'm going to go back to my meditation spot, which I'm going to do consistently every day anyway, so that it's a good place for me to get to know my mind. But I'm going to go back more deeply into that problem and kind of say, why does this keep happening to me? Right? Why do I keep doing that? That gets me into trouble, that makes me miserable, that has this person agitated, whatever it is for you. Then we're going to look more deeply. And again, peeling back the onion a little bit more to reveal, to understand, to then make a change, make a reasonable change in your mind you can do, which creates a change in your life. Okay. What is bodhicitta? Let's look at this. Bodhicitta is a compassionate mind that wishes to achieve enlightenment in order to benefit all living beings. Okay, so here's the crux of it, two aspects of it. A lot of people say bodhicitta is I want to benefit all living beings. No, you missed one important part: to achieve enlightenment yourself. To get enlightened, that's number one. And the second aspect is I'm doing it in order to free all others from their suffering, to benefit them perfectly. Okay, it's the heart of the Mahayana teachings. It's the heart of this tradition. Okay, Mahayana meaning greater or universal vehicle. Okay, I want to get enlightened, but I'm not going to end there to get myself free of the suffering, is I'm going to take it further to benefit all living beings. Because with that enlightened consciousness, according to Tibetan Buddhism, I am all-knowing, I'm omniscient. And because I'm omniscient, I know exactly what's going to go down. In fact, I know all beings' minds in all world systems simultaneously. All their past, present, future karma, all at the same time. So it's an inconceivable mind state, okay? We can attain it, okay? And then the other thing about the mind is it's fully manifest every positive quality. So unconditional love, loving kindness, wisdom, compassion, empathy, all the positive qualities are fully manifest in that mind every moment. And you act from there. So if you can imagine what kind of space the enlightened consciousness. So the words bodhicitta, as most of you know, chitta, mind in Sanskrit, chitta, mind. Bodhi, enlightenment. Okay, so it's the mind of enlightenment, which is that essence of the two aspects: to become a Buddha, to achieve enlightenment oneself, and the wish to do this in order to benefit all living beings. Again, it is the source of your happiness. Source of your happiness. So please reflect on this in the next 2 weeks. Reflect on what would it be like to have that consciousness? What would it be like to have that consciousness? Like that. I should write some of these exercises down, so I don't forget to send them to you. And it would be great to do the meditation on love as much as you can if you found you're really blocked in sending the light rays to yourself. So if you find that's a struggle, keep doing the meditation. You know, notice why don't you feel that you also deserve to be happy and that you're good enough? Like, explore that. Again, go in meditation, go in over and over, reflect more deeply. I'm just as good as anyone else. And we're going to talk about this in a moment when we talk about equanimity. So some of the traditional teachings talk about this is the gateway to the Mahayana tradition. Okay. And they go through, well, what are the advantages? You know, and there's all these advantages and they list them, and it's listed in this document. And I'll go through a few of them with you. And there's basically 10 that they list, and you can read all the different, there's explanations that I put in. And for instance, bodhicitta, they'll say, and these are more traditional, is the sole gateway to the Mahayana tradition. And so you can read a little bit about that, that they'll say it's not enough that the Dharma you study be Mahayana. Okay. The person practicing must also belong to the Mahayana. And so as a result of getting bodhicitta, attaining bodhicitta, they say you kind of become this Mahayanist. You become like what they call a child of the victorious ones. That's a second ability, you know. So in a sense, we don't have a sense of that, but basically, a lot of people want to be happy. They want to have good things happen to them, right? And I notice with Rinpoche, there's a quality of bodhicitta. And so when I first met Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who's right there, that picture right there. Many of you are familiar with Rinpoche. When I met Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Kopan Monastery many years ago, I had the good fortune to have a private interview with Rinpoche, which you can, you know, request, and sometimes they'll give, you know, slowly if you, whatever. And so, and I wasn't a Buddhist, I was brand new, and I had just done like a 10-day course, and I was totally intimidated, you know, but somehow I had requested this appointment, and they gave me this appointment, and I'm waiting, and they take me down this dark hallway in this old gompa, that, you know, and it's really old, funky building, but beautiful building, all wooden floors. And we go, and so Rinpoche is in this little room, and he is sitting like kind of a little card table. There's a little table there in front of him, but I think he stood up, and I had all these inhibitions because I had heard he's clairvoyant, and they said he can read your mind. He has all these realizations, and I was afraid of him reading all my sick thoughts. You know, I thought, oh my gosh, like you feel kind of naked in front of these people. But I was really skeptical too. I wasn't sure I bought all that. You know, I'm like, I don't know about this. And somehow I got this interview. They said, if you have some questions. And so, but as soon as I got to the door of the room, and there he was, and he had taught a little bit in the class, just a couple sessions. And I was quite enamored with him. Like I liked the feeling around him, but I didn't really understand much of what he said in the teachings. I couldn't really understand it, but I was kind of, and he taught for a long time, and I just somehow was intrigued. And obviously I didn't know he was my guru, but obviously there was a connection already from past lives. That was my, you know, later I understood now I'm standing at the doorway, and honestly just felt like this wave of goodness around him. Like suddenly all my fear went away. And I just had this sense of all he wanted to do is help me. There's nothing to be afraid of. This was, and I've been around all these other like different false gurus. I'd done, you know, tried different spiritualities where sometimes there was a lot of ego, and I was like, nah. And there was none of that with Rinpoche. It was just this kind of pure feeling, and I don't think I'd ever felt that around anybody. That somebody didn't have their own agenda. Because think about everybody you meet. Everybody's got their own ego processing, and I got this stuff. And whether it's as simple as I come into the room and Teresa's setting up, and then I'm kind of thinking, well, we need the setup for the class. Like even that little, you know, it's like a little hook in the mind that going like, you know, Rinpoche is just space, like the Dalai Lama, just a spacious, blissful consciousness. So I got this feeling of like, and it was really impressive to me because I didn't think I'd ever experienced that with someone of oh, he just really seems to care about me. That's a quality of bodhicitta, right? And there's actually, they'll say a scent, S-C-E-N-T, a scent of enlightenment. There's a smell sometimes around highly realized beings. It's very precious, very good scent. And I've also had that around teachers. I've smelled that around teachers where they walk in the room and you're like, and it's a scent you want to be around. Like, it's not kind of like a perfume, like, ooh, it's like, and they say the scent of morality, like somebody that's really practicing, and there's a quality in the mind. So, and what happens with that quality of bodhicitta is people are attracted to it. People are attracted to it in a good way, not in a harmful way. They're attracted, and there's things that can be subdued from that experience of bodhicitta. So another example I gave is about a month later, I changed all my plans upon meeting Rinpoche, and I really think from having some good karma ripen, and changed my plans to accompany Rinpoche with a big group of students of his. 60 students were going to Tibet. And I changed all my plans and decided to join, like tag along, and to go through some of the pilgrimage things he was going to take people to. And everybody got there in different ways because there was no scheduled travel in Tibet at the time. You just had to figure out how to hitch a ride on this truck, or, the roads were incredibly dusty. And so I traveled with a couple people, and we all finally met up in Lhasa like a few weeks later. And then I got to watch Rinpoche. And so what happened is they warned us that the dogs in Tibet were vicious. And they were mastiff-sized dogs. They would run wild in the night. And the Tibetans sometimes beat them, which was, you'd say, well, they're Buddhists. But it was just because the dogs could be very vicious. I had met people that had been bitten by dogs in Tibet that had to go back to Kathmandu to get rabies shots because they didn't have any in Tibet. And, so you were warned. And they said, don't go out at night alone. Take a stick with you, take rocks, or at least go out in a group, just because these dogs could be difficult. And during the day, most of them slept, the dogs, and they were all living outside. People would feed them, but they all lived outside. And so we were warned. And then one day we were all on these buses together. Rinpoche gets out of his bus over there. And right away and there's 4 dogs right there congregating right near Rinpoche. And so people started to run over and said, Rinpoche, be careful, the dogs, And I saw Rinpoche and I watched this. He put his hand down because he had no fear. He had no fear because he is an omniscient, highly realized mind, right? I can't say if Rinpoche is a Buddha or not, but clearly has some realizations. Probably has been able to transcend his fear due to the level's realizations. So the thing is, dogs will respond to fear and they get afraid and then they growl, and that's when they bite you, right? No fear there. So I watched Rinpoche put his hand down and people were running over and over. And there's the 4 dogs wagging their tails, licking Rinpoche's hand. Probably wouldn't have been the case with me, right? So it fascinated me to see, and I got the chance for weeks to watch Rinpoche with the students at the temples, with the Tibetans, to really, and they say, His Holiness says, be a spy on your guru, like to really check them out. And he really, to me, at my baby level, seemed to be walking the talk that he was teaching in the different teachings. And I'd never met anybody like that. So quality of bodhicitta. Quality of bodhicitta. This is how you become a Mahayanist, okay? And by becoming a Mahayanist in this tradition, right, you can become a bodhisattva, okay, which is like a Buddhist saint who is one who's attained bodhicitta. And then all your wishes get fulfilled from that space. So that's what we want. But what we do is we're over here and we toil and we do all the stuff where we work on it. And it's great that we're here in the Gompa, and it's great that you're in the Zoom room because we're working on it, but we're not there yet. So what happens is we slog along and then a problem comes up and then we go, I need this. Okay. And then I suffer. And then I have to pick myself back up and go, there's my meditation space. What happened? Okay, let me explore a little bit more bodhicitta. Let me meditate on this aspect. Let me meditate on that aspect. Okay. So let me just run through these things more quickly. Then I want to talk about equanimity. So you become, this is the gateway to the Mahayana. Number 2, you become a child of the victorious ones, child of the Buddhas. Okay. So meaning that they're going to support you, they're going to help you. Okay, you become part of this kind of family. Number 3, they say you outshine hearers and solitary realizers. Hearers and solitary realizers are other practitioners on the Theravadan path. Okay, they might have levels of calm abiding. Okay, they have some insight, like the solitary realizers are kind of like, I don't need a teacher, I'm going to do this on my own. They get to a certain level, they don't get enlightened, but they get to a pretty high level. Hears as well, I'm just going to listen to the Dharma, you know, things like that. So again, you have more realizations on this path than they can get, that you'll outshine them. You become a supreme object of offering. You know, I have some friends, very poor and different things. And then I've just seen from the qualities some people have in them of realizations, everything they need is there. Everything they need comes. Whatever they need comes. I've seen Rinpoche of his, and we talk about fundraising. Teresa and I have been involved. Teresa's been so helpful with the fundraising things here as well. And one of the best fundraisers I mean is Lama Zopa Rinpoche. I mean, just of what it's not a conscious thing of him like necessarily asking for money, but he presents opportunities to people from his qualities. And again, because I was like, when I met him and felt this quality in him, I knew it was authentic. So if Rinpoche has a project and it's something and I'll check it out, I want to support it. I want to support it because I know it's authentic. I know nobody's taking me for a ride. It's a good thing. But whatever you need will come. And also your mind is satisfied with simplicity. So you're not distracted with, I need this, another pair of shoes and another this, and constantly, it's okay because the whole focus is other beings. Not so focused on what I need. And then, so whatever you need is usually provided. Okay. You can accumulate, here's number 5, you can accumulate a vast amount of merit or positive energy. And you need that accumulation of merit to progress along the path well. You need the conditions, the causes and conditions like that. Like we think a lot, we talk sometimes at LMB about creating the causes and conditions for the center to thrive and be successful. And it takes a lot of work, at a residential center like this on a large property coming out of the pandemic. The expenses we have are vast and things. How do we create the right balance of people and the right situation to support those people well, to create? And so you do need a lot of, which means the center in itself needs to be generous, needs to have that kind of level so that flows back. And so as a result, and there's lots of practices we individually do to accumulate merit and positive activities like that. Would be setting up your meditation practice, meditating on bodhicitta, doing some Tonglen meditations that we're going to do in this class, equanimity meditation, meditating, studying emptiness, and being kind to people like that. Number 6, and the other side of accumulation of merit is purifying negativities. Number 6, we purify a vast amount of negative karma and obscurations. Okay, that's one of the benefits of developing bodhicitta. Number 7, we accomplish whatever we wish. That sounds pretty good. Number 8, we're not going to be bothered by harm and external hindrances as much. Sometimes you meet people and it's a constant, they had a car accident, and then they had a problem with their flat and they had to move out and their flat got flooded, and then there's a problem with the new place and the landlord there, and then they didn't have enough money for this place, and then their job, something happened, and you meet people, it's a constant problem. Okay, not with somebody on the bodhicitta path, not somebody really skillfully working. Doesn't mean you won't have hindrances at times. Okay, but we're not bothered as much by them. Less and less, the mind is more subdued, more focused on others, like that. Number 9, we will quickly accomplish all the grounds and paths. So we will make great strides in our path to enlightenment. And number 10, we become a fertile source of every happiness for others. So when I send you this document, you can read, and we'll go over some more in more details, but you can read more about the details yourself. And this is just taking you through page 5. So when I'll mention up to those. It's really nice to read a little bit more detail to those pages of what does it really mean. And it's a little bit more traditional like that. When we are developing bodhicitta, this goes on, and this is a quote from the Buddha: for those of you who want to attain enlightenment, do not study many teachings, okay? Only study one. What is it? Great compassion. Whoever has great compassion has all the Buddha's qualities in their hand. So the most precious mind of bodhicitta is the wish to achieve enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. It's the heart of the Buddhist teachings. There's two main methods to attain this mind state, two main methods. One was very openly taught, called the sevenfold cause and effect instruction. The second was a secret path called exchanging self with others. I'm going to explain the whole thing and who they came from and why one was more open. And basically the sevenfold cause and effect instruction came down to us from Master Shantideva, originally from the Buddha. And sevenfold cause and effect instruction came from Master Serlingpa, who came from Indonesia, originally from the Buddha, was passed on through many, many masters. He was one that really synthesized and passed it to us. And the exchanging self with others was from Master Shantideva, originally from the Buddha, passed on through another lineage. It was secret because once we get into that methodology, I'll explain, because with Tonglen meditation, which is kind of the essence of that path, again, equalizing, exchanging self with others. When you're doing Tonglen meditation, you're inviting the suffering of others through a visualization. You're as you inhale, you're taking their suffering, okay? And then as you exhale, you're giving them all your happiness, merit, joy, all the good things. So most people don't want people suffering. So it couldn't have been commonly taught because people didn't understand of the method. This is a higher level practice. We will do it in this series. It's one of my favorite meditations. And I have to say, for the planet right now, hugely helpful, Tonglen meditation. You wake up, you look at your news, look at something, and there's this horrible earthquake in Turkey and Syria. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people have been killed by this earthquake. And a lot of people say to me, it's overwhelming. During what was going on during COVID, the pandemic, the isolation, the lockdowns, all the people dying, there's wars, the war in Ukraine. And so some people say it's too much. What's going to be next? What's going to happen? The fires that were going on in California 2.5 years ago, really, really terrifying in this area. Okay. But this is samsara's nature. Okay. Rather than being toppled by it, right? So if I'm sitting there sometimes, at least I can do Tonglen meditation. I'm not getting their suffering. Okay. It's an attitude. And I would just wish to take on, I just think of these people surviving under the rubble. They're living, no food or water for them. And they don't know if anybody hears them. They don't know if there's going to be land moving equipment to get them. Let me just take that suffering, that fear, freezing cold, starving, thirst, whatever's going on for them. How do you just wait there under the rubble for days? They're waiting, hours, right? We're impatient waiting at a red light for 2 minutes, right? So just think about it. Put it in perspective. This opens your heart and mind. Bigger perspective. Okay. I can just imagine taking their suffering. I don't need to see them. I can see a picture in the news, taking their suffering. It doesn't harm me, the suffering. Okay. But here at my heart, I might imagine a constricted knot of my selfishness, my self-absorption, okay, my self-cherishing. That's what gets in the way of my happiness. Only that. Let their suffering eradicate, purify, minimize, clean out that knot. And then from the knot, more spacious, less knot, more spacious. Now I can offer them, oh my God, I have food, clothing, and shelter. I have a job. I have some money. I have a vehicle. I have meaning in my life. Like, let me offer that to them as I exhale and imagine it's just filling them with happiness and peace. Now we know you do the Tonglen, but there's still people dying in Turkey, right? It's not going to solve it like that. It's an attitude. But the thing is that ripple effect goes out from you and your mind. It does have an effect on the planet. It does have an effect. But what's unusual is just at my baby level, okay? So I've noticed there was a woman at another center I was working with. We had a really difficult time. It was just so challenging with her, with everyone. It was really difficult. And we tried different positions, and I talked to her and I worked with her, and the staff kind of wanted me to hire her. And then I had hesitation, but we did. And then they were done with her. They're like, get her out of here. Like, we don't want her anymore. And I'm like, I told you, but I was kind of, I don't know. I was like, I could see maybe she wants to practice. And so sometimes I couldn't do anything. And I go back to my little cabin and I would do Tonglen meditation just with her in front of me. And when I would come out, the situation with her was it would ease up and she'd somehow kind of be more subdued, or me, it was amazing. Every time I did it, I'm like, and then again, it would kind of go back into a pattern. But each time I'd come out, she was like easier to deal with or something. It was really interesting. So it does have some sort of effect like that. So Tonglen meditation, that's why it was secret. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about, and then I'll take some questions. I want to talk about equanimity before we finish for tonight. We've heard this word many times. Both of these methods to develop bodhicitta begin with the basis of equanimity. Both methods start there. Okay. I think we're familiar with equanimity, long word, meaning equal regard, equal respect for all beings. Okay. And a nice way I like to work with it sometimes, when I'll notice a little bit of a chip on my shoulder coming up of like, is I have to kind of take myself back to my meditation space, come up with that. And I'll notice pride's not been one of my major delusions. I have many other delusions that are bigger. Pride, you each know your delusion, like understand, is it attachment? Is it anger? Is it jealousy? Is it fear, depression, anxiety, or what? And some people are really arrogant. So work with your biggest delusion first, people always say. So I'll notice if that gets a little bit activated, right? Go back to my safe. And then I really come back to like, I really thought I knew it all, didn't I? Like, look at that. And then back, and if it's in relation to one person or a group of people, just like me, they want to be happy and they don't want to suffer. It's the basis of equanimity. Just like me. I might even have a person you're wrestling with, one person you're challenged by. And then I suddenly go back to, they want to be happy and they don't want to suffer, just like me. We want the same fundamental thing. Everybody on the planet actually wants that. Is there anybody here that doesn't want that? Everybody wants to be happy and doesn't want to suffer, right? Now, granted, people have different ways of going about getting happiness and avoiding suffering. I know, right? Like you could say Putin has a really different idea about how to do that than I do. I would not be invading a country and killing people for happiness. Not interested in that. But again, fundamentally, the basis is he wants to be happy. He doesn't want to suffer, just like me. So it puts him in a different arena than me just hating him. We're actually the same in a way. We're going to act out in different ways. We have different delusions, different things going on, but fundamentally we want to kind of, to me, it was the guy with the sign today, right? Sometimes we're not that far. Think about it. We're not that far from being homeless, some of us, from being unhoused. Like me as a Buddhist nun, I have to say, honestly, this has happened to many friends of mine, monastics, especially Western nuns, where you might not want to do that job at the center anymore. And this happened to me way in the past. I didn't have any money. The center, and I needed the center. I wanted to go there, but I needed money, and the center didn't have any money to pay me, but I didn't have any money. So it's like, what am I going to live on? It's like they could give me food and a little room, little cabin, but, and I didn't have a car to drive out. And if you didn't have money to get a car, with the car, you're going to need gas, you're going to need insurance, you're going to need, and then there's those incidentals. You need a new pair of shoes. Something happens, some medical thing that you need. So it was amazing how, and sometimes if you don't want to do the job anymore, you want to do longer retreat, but you want to stay at the center. You've been at the center for 20 years. You want to stay there at your home. And sometimes they have housing issues and they'll go, well, we really need your cabin for somebody to come in and do that job. So sometimes I feel like I'm not that far from being a homeless person. And we're supposed to be wandering mendicants, monastics. On one level, we are supposed to be like, it creates much less attachment. Absolutely. But just think about your own trajectory. Sometimes we're not, when I did volunteer work in Washington, D.C. years ago with the homeless, and I was on a soup truck for 2 years, and I was the Tuesday night shift with two friends, and we gave out food at 3 parks in Washington, D.C. So over the 2 years, you got to meet people. You met all these people, and it was the same people for the most part in these parks coming up. And I got to know a lot of these people, really, really nice people, a number of them mentally ill and a number of them addicts, but different people that I met. And I met this woman that had been a journalist. I really thought, whoa, this is just like me, that she had been a journalist, lost her job. She could temp, and I've done temp jobs for years to support myself. She was temping, but she ended up not having enough money to support her apartment, gave up the apartment, moved in with her sister, sleeping on the couch, which I've done with friends at times, was on the couch for 4 months until the sister was like, I don't want you here anymore. Now, I don't know all the background of, was she using drugs? She wasn't on drugs when I met her. She seemed clean and sober and very conscious and didn't seem to be mentally ill, but I don't know the background story of what was ever going on with her and her sister. But sister's like, she didn't have any other friends to stay with, and she ended up on the street. So it happens to people, a lot, It's not really a place you want to be on the street, Washington, D.C., especially not in the winter. So this is this equal regard. Can I at least, and then we have a meditation, friend, enemy, stranger, that's part of this text that I'm going to send out and direct you to it. I want you to look it over in the next couple of weeks. We'll do this meditation next week, in 2 weeks, I mean, to develop bodhicitta. And it's really powerful because what happens is we've got the friend, really close with them, I'll do anything for them. But think about the friend. The reason this person's in that category is because of the nice things they do for you, the nice things they say to you. They make you comfortable. You feel safe with them. They help you, right? And then the enemy gets into a category because they harm you and they disagree with your agenda and they say horrible things to you and they don't help you and they don't, whatever the things are. And the stranger is somebody that you might know their first name, but you don't really have much opinion one way or another. A lot of people, somebody, that you meet in the store that you see every day, or somebody that you're, that you commute with, and somebody, we all have those people. We know their first name, but not much more about them. So I'll direct you to those areas and think about this couple of weeks working with equanimity. Is when is the heart kind of shutting down and tight in relation to somebody? What can you observe about that person that is similar to you? What is it that's upsetting you, if they're upsetting you, that's maybe they're saying something, doing something? Have you ever done that yourself? Have you ever done those things yourself? Like that. Think about the person wants to be happy, don't want to suffer, just like you. So slowly we can work with that, of that equal regard, getting that, because each of these components, and we're going to start with 7-fold cause and effect instruction, is designed opening the heart more and more and more. Questions? Anybody? Anybody in the room as well? Okay, everybody doing okay? Great. Okay, let me just see what else I had in my notes for, okay. There's my little text. There we go. Okay, and then the other thing that Lama Tsongkhapa did, Lama Tsongkhapa came along after the other 2 lamas I mentioned, Master Shantideva, Master Sri Lingpa, and Lama Tsongkhapa came along 1357 to 1419 he lived. He founded Ganden Monastery in Tibet, that's outside of Lhasa, and founded our tradition, the Gelugpa tradition of Tibetan Buddhism. There's 4 traditions in Tibetan Buddhism. Lama Tsongkhapa founded our tradition. So he did what's called the combined method that is in this text. So how to combine the 7-fold cause and effect instruction with exchanging self with others. And it's a brilliant way to really work and build your meditations on bodhicitta to help your mind be moved more in that direction. Okay. So I want to give some advice. This is from Kyabji Rinpa Rinpoche. This is in the text, who taught this commentary here. That's why I thought it was very significant. Actually, Rinpa Rinpoche in this room, I remember many years ago, I was pretty new to the Dharma, but I'd taken some courses and been in India doing retreats for a while. I ended up coming back to this area from Lama Zopa's advice. And there was a director here at the time who asked me to come and be the manager of Land of Medicine Buddha. And I lived here for a couple of months because 2 of my main teachers were coming here to teach, Rinpa Rinpoche and another Lama, Kirti Senchab Rinpoche. It's amazing. And I'm sure their pictures are somewhere here. So I think Rinpa Rinpoche's on that altar over there. And so they came and we were standing here, and the door used to be there. That was the door that you entered, was through there. And I remember he came in, and then and there was one other door on this side as well. And then what happened is he was leaving the Gompa, and he got quite sick here at one point. And then he said, I'm going to go back to my room. And then he pointed to me and said, I have to teach the next session. And I had never taught before. And I was like, I can't do that. You know, I terrified. And then Rinpoche said, and it was about building confidence. And Rinpoche said, you can teach. He said, you should teach the next session. And I led a meditation or something. So the first place I ever did that was here in this Gompa. I remember sitting over there. So it always has significance for me. Not that I knew anything of what I was doing, because I didn't, I was completely terrified. But this is about building confidence in this path for you. That's why I wanted to mention, and this is what he says. He says, when you set yourself, and I love these teachers that are trying to give you some wholesome heart. You're good enough. You guys can do this. Really. Don't look at me and go, well, she's a nun. I was a layperson for years practicing, and Rinpoche, Lama Zopa Rinpoche will say to me, sometimes there's so many good lay practitioners. Don't feel that, no, I have to be doing this for 35 years. And so you don't know what kind of seeds are in your mind. What kind of seeds are in your mind that suddenly ripen, and you get it. You get emptiness or something. This is from Rinpa Rinpoche. So wait, let me get to the folks in the Zoom room. You got it? Okay, you can do this. I'm going to quote Ling Rinpoche. You can do this. Okay. Rinpa Rinpoche would say, when you set yourself to develop bodhicitta, he goes, take a far-sighted view. Okay. Don't be narrow-minded, thinking I could never do this. Okay. Or it's going to take a really long time, because thoughts like that, he says, don't help. He goes, instead, set yourself a really far-sighted view, thinking, no matter how long it takes, I'm going to do it. No matter how long it takes, I'm invested. I'm going to do it. Okay. And he says, why? The reason's because these instructions are so perfect. They're so powerful. The instructions on bodhicitta, came from our ancient teachers that worked for their minds, which were passed down in an oral lineage, from their mouths to the next ear to the next, it worked for them. They were able to gain realizations. So he said they're especially very powerful. Okay. And then he said, on top of it, you have instructions from Lama Tsongkhapa, and then you want to pass it right. And his instructions came from the Buddha Manjushri, Buddha of infinite wisdom. Okay. Originally going all the way back to the Buddha. But if you want to fast forward ahead, then Lama Tsongkhapa passed it into his tradition, to his disciples, passed it to their disciples, their disciples, their disciples, to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, that I've had the good fortune to take teachings from, which some of you may have as well, or will. Passed it to Lama Zopa Rinpoche, to Rinpa Rinpoche, to Kirti Senchab Rinpoche, that I've had teachings of the bodhicitta teachings from all of them, that pass it to me, pass it to you, that I'm not a highly realized being yet, but I'm working on it, just like you're working on it. Okay, so it's really an authentic lineage. That's what I mean. It's an authentic lineage, connects you all the way back to these original Buddhas, originally the Buddha, and then all those manifestations of other Buddhas along the way. Okay. And Lama Tsongkhapa being able to clarify all the teachings of the Buddha, Sutra, Tantra. Okay. And I like how he says, and everything he wrote sparkles like pure gold. Okay. So again, think about the bigger, now it doesn't mean that it's too far away from me. It's too big a goal, but that's why right now, let me be reasonable with my practice to set up something reasonable that you're able to manifest, that you're able to do. Okay. So we have some exercises this week, and I will send you some of those of the perspective, thinking of others' experiences, think about empathy, think about, are you pitying somebody? Is my heart really there, able to hold their discomfort, and I'm just going to hang out here with them, try to help them and let them know that I hear what they're saying. We'll go through and I'll some of you jotted some stuff down. And then I'll send you the text as well, and you can start reading or looking through that if you like. And it's full of great meditations and things we're going to explore more in this series. I'm going to stop there. So I'd like to thank all of you so much for joining. The next class is in 2 weeks. It is in 2 weeks. Let me just double check that. It is the 27th. Yes. Somebody asked me, you do need to register for each class. Some of the series, you register once and you get the link, and it's one series like Discovering Buddhism. This one, it's more like a drop-in, so people could come in at different times. Pass it on to anybody you think might be interested, because they can just add in. And the best you can these couple of weeks to practice the good heart as much as you can. As much as you can. Thinking of others, directing even a fraction, diverting a fraction of the energy you spend thinking about yourself to others as much as you can. So I'm just going to share my screen. We're going to do some basic dedication prayers right now, just to dedicate whatever positive energy we've created in a good way. And I'd first, of course, like to dedicate to the war in Ukraine to end immediately, and all other conflicts on the planet. I'd like to dedicate to all the survivors being found immediately in Turkey and Syria, and for them to find a way to rebuild their lives as quickly as possible and get the aid they need and get the food they need and the heat and the shelter and things like that. And for all the beings who need additional healing, may they as well. I'd really like to dedicate to Marcy Fish right now, and Carl. And there's a couple people I know waltzing into serious surgery this month. Today was Mark Hensley, and in a week, Jim Davidson, who used to be a key staff person at Vajrapani Institute many years ago, Jim Davidson. So if we can just think about these beings, and I'm going to do some more formal dedication prayers. And it's exciting. We have our projector so we can all see. Okay. Thank you, Teresa. And I'll make these bigger so everybody can see. This is just more of a formal way that we do. This is what better prayer right here to actualize bodhicitta. May the precious supreme bodhicitta, not yet born, arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. Here's to realize emptiness. That's the Wednesday night class. May the precious view of emptiness, not yet born, arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. We have this lovely picture, Lama Zopa Rinpoche with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And if you want to join for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, in the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good, all powerful Chenrei Sig Tenzin Gyatso. Please remain until samsara ends. And for Lama Zopa Rinpoche, you who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. We're also going to continue practical approaches that you can use in everyday life. So that will continue as well. And hope to do register again, and look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks, unless you're joining some of the other classes. We also have a lot of wonderful LOSAR events coming up. And